Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 90th episode of the Samurai Brothers. And Matthew, we're going to be talking about the latest chapter. One Piece did come out today, so we're going to cover that. And it's chapter 1190. So last we left off, Luffy was not in a great spot, and it seemed he was about to get finished off by Emu. And then right at the last second, Scopper Gabon steps in to save him. So once again, fate really favors Luffy, it seems. So with that being said, we'll get right into the chapter, and I'll try and speed through this so that we can actually talk about what our thoughts and theories we might have for this and anything we've observed. So let's get right into it. Copper has deflected Emu's attacks, and also what happens with that is that basically Emu's deflected attack still cuts the tree that Luffy's been impaled on, so that's kind of a painful thing there. And then when
It's fortunate
yeah,
because
because at least he's freed in the second page because the swords have fallen out. But then when Emu tries to attack Scopper, he's able to use um, he's able to avoid him. So
probably using some good old observation hockey because
yeah, I would have to say
he's got the type of observation hockey where he can see the future.
yeah. So so Scopper is we see Scopper above him in the next scene, having used his sword to kind of clamp onto one of the tree branches. He says, "You're a hideous sight, like nothing of this mortal world." Emu asks, "Who art thou?" And Scopper replies with, "One who knows the world." And then and then this is funny because he drops from the branch he used to avoid Emu's attack, and then he just turns his back on him and just walks over to Luffy, like all nonchalant and stuff. And then
It's well, if you think about it, it's pretty similar to when Luffy, when he first faced off, well, when he faced off against both Big Mom and Kaido, just walked past them to what's his name?
Mhm.
Uh, who
Talk
was the
about
leader
when
of the vassals?
Kiemon,
Yeah, Kinemon. So
yeah,
it's kind of reminiscent of that scene.
yeah, because Emu seems to be kind of a bit bewildered, and he just lets Scopper just walk over to Luffy. Um, so obviously Luffy is in pain and he's yelling out and stuff, and Scopper looks like he's laying down, the high expectations of being the pirate king and being in the new world because he says, "On your feet, Straw Hat Luffy, I'm disappointed in you. Aren't you ashamed of getting saved by an injured old man like me? Um, your white form, Emperor of the Sea." And all while that's happening, just Luffy can only just say "ow." Scopper then continues, "Don't get full of yourself." Luffy's like, "Yow, hey old man, let me go." So then I mean it looks like Scopper's really trying to hit this home to Luffy about the severity of the situation. He says, "Do you want to die here?" Luffy responds with, "No, I'm not gonna die. Ow, let me go." Um, But then Scopper's continuing to lay in to him with, "You're a dead man walking. It's pathetic. What happens next after you're dead?" And that seems to kind of bring back some
Life in
memories.
him.
Yeah, life, and that's obviously bringing back some trauma from free time skip. What happened? Because then Luffy responds with, "I can't protect my friend's country." Um, That's right. And what happens to the crew you brought all this way? Their lives are in danger. Correct. Now you listen closely. On this sea, The higher you rise, the more enemies you have. The king of the pirates is a title for those whose death brings celebration because everyone else wants to sit in that seat. If you're imagining you can be king of the pirates with nothing but peace and sunshine and rainbows, save us all the trouble and go home. You're not cut out for this. Now stay out of my way, brat. And he throws him across the way.
Basically using some reverse psychology.
Yeah, Scopper's not wrong in this situation because I'm sure that it wasn't easy for Goldie Roger to get into his position either. So and all this time, just Emu's just watching. So it's kind of interesting in that sense. So once Luffy gets thrown away, he says, "Damn it, that stupid old man talking all that trash about me. I'll show you." So then Scopper resumes his part in this fight against Emu. First with a attack called Mantis Axe style Mantis Plum. Emu's like, "Is this a joke to thee?" And Scopper's response is, "You want to kill him, don't you?" Emu's like, "I do." So then here's where things get interesting because Scopper asks him, "Does he really remind you so much of Joy Boy?" And that gets Emu's attention because he says, "Who art thou? Dost thou recognize Mu?" And then he gets ready to unleash an attack with Hone Bami Toshiro. What dost thou know? And Scopper says, "The words of Joy Boy, but don't get it twisted. We're not blindly obedient to some man from the past we'd never met before. We just want to see our captain's dream brought to light." Now, here's where things start getting interesting because in this very, very next panel, Emu says, "Captain," but before that, he starts coughing.
Blood.
And he's coughing up blood. Meanwhile, Luffy's all like, "Oh, I'm gonna get that old man for making fun of me. Heal, get better. Just a moment is all I need." And then Emu asks, "Who is this captain?" With obviously Scopper answering, "The king of the pirates, Goldie Roger." And that seems to bring back some memories to Emu because he says in a flashback between him and the Gorosei, he says, "This disgusts Mu. Why is the D on the king of the pirates? Spread not that name. Yes, great one." So obviously he was very, very well aware, and that's probably why he was able to make the wanted posters be gold instead of Goldie. Let me see here. So
clearly Emu didn't know who Scopper was, even though he was one of Roger's crew.
Right, but probably to him it didn't matter because it was Roger who was the one with all the fame. And again, Emu is kind of selective on what affairs he seems to concern himself with, don't you think?
Well, being the king of the world, you kind of have to pick and choose what to concentrate on.
Yeah. So then Emu says, "I see the very man who turned this into the area of piracy. And why would the remnants of his crew protect Straw Hat Luffy?" And Scopper says, "Because you're going out of your way to eliminate him. Is that not proof enough? If even you see him as a threat," and then we get into some little Goldie Roger saying, "Someone will be born and eventually surpass us. We were just too early." So Scopper continues, "If even you see him as a threat, then you're telling us that this boy is the very man we've all been waiting for." And Emu
it shows the three men that were alive that were significant, and then four men.
Well, yeah, Roger's in the panel before, but then it's all the other people who have, they know a lot of what's been going on. And I think, they put Newgate in there because Roger told him about what they found out. So he knew So he knew as well. Emu's response is, indeed, we have been foolish. Perhaps we have mistaken numerous mere coincidences for destiny. Let us end that now. In which he then sends one of his little black homies over to Luffy. Scopper says, no, you idiot, wait. And then Scopper says, sorry about this one jewel tree, Adam. It wasn't my intent to eat you. And then he starts getting into pain because he says, damn these creaky joints. It sucks getting old. Luffy getting up. Old jerk. I don't care if he is friends with Rayleigh. So I'm not sure who makes this next move because Emu starts saying, I think he's starting to say stigma. But then it doesn't get off because then we see this move. It's called the Gate of God. I'm assuming this is.
I think that's Scopper's because.
Yeah, they're Scopper. Because we see that the branch that Emu is on gets chopped up. Not only that, he chops. So basically, he severs the part that Emu is on, but then there's another branch, part of the branch that was also extended out. So basically, he's cut off two parts of the original branch, which they start going down, and Emu, the blood
visibly bloody.
Yeah. Emu responds with, still the Pirate King's crew, even decrepit, thou art so determined to believe. Thou art so determined to believe. And then Scopper unleashes more attacks. Yachi Honebami. Oh, no, wait. I think it's Yachi Takeru Honebami, which I'm kind of curious to see what the actual, if they're like trying to translate it or not. So let me see here. Thou art so determined to believe. And Scopper returns that to him. He says, like you aren't. So then we see the pieces of the Atom Tree falling down into the underworld. And then the sun, back in the sun world, Gerd says, what was that? And Luffy and Usopp are like, was that Luffy? No, it's not. So obviously Usopp exercising more of his observation hockey with that. But then he says there's someone else up there, someone devastatingly strong. But then we see that Scopper, and that doesn't look good at all. Scopper appears to have lost one of his arms because Luffy says, old man. So that closes.
Luffy's back up.
Huh? Yeah, Luffy's back up. Yeah. So that ends the chapter. The chapter that we'll be getting in 2 weeks. So with that being said, though, all right, Matthew, let's get right into the discussion then of what we've seen so far. I think the number one obvious thing that you and I can both observe is that I think we are now seeing the time clock is definitely
running.
Ticking.
Yeah.
It is running out for Emu.
It's running out for Emu, and Emu's time clock is more important than everyone else's.
Yeah. So Scopper made a big sacrifice here because he's definitely not in the fight right now. It'll be interesting to see what how Luffy though can manage this, because that's a big sacrifice made by Scopper there.
Yeah, this is one of those things where it's like, make it count, Luffy. The old man saved your life and bought you time to get back in the fight. Make it count.
Yeah. So we see here, obviously, is that kind of going back to what Scopper said. I mean, well, this was already something that was in the lore, which is basically that the Roger Pirates again were too early to be able to make the moves, to kind of change how the world is, it seems. But they obviously know of who Joy Boy is. So obviously, Scopper is believing that, hey, Luffy is likely, the reincarnation of Joy Boy.
Yeah, that's probably the case. So,
Yeah. Which kind of makes me wonder if, for example, I mean, obviously Shirahoshi is probably the,
Poseidon.
yeah, she's the reincarnation of Poseidon, and kind of makes me wonder if Vivi might be possibly the reincarnation of Lily. Like everything's kind of coming full
And
circle.
then the reincarnation of what's his name? Davy Jones is obviously Blackbeard.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. I forgot about Blackbeard. Yeah, because
Of course, a real question is how bad was Davy Jones? Was he as bad as Blackbeard? Because as we said before, we found out that Rox was not as bad as his son turned out to be.
yeah, of
He
course,
was he definitely was on the moral bad guy scale, but he was a little bit closer to the gray side of that scale
yeah,
because he was a
in a
man
way.
who operated with honor.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, he did. Blackbeard doesn't have that, but Blackbeard in his own right is, he just looks for ways to just attain things, and no matter the cost. Got to remember that, no matter the cost. Because for one,
Well, yeah, because he's betrayed multiple people.
right, the
He's
black,
betrayed the world government. He betrayed
the Whitebeard pirates.
the Whitebeard pirates.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, there's probably times where he would probably be willing to betray his own crew if it benefits him.
Yeah, he's the reality is he's a man without honor, whereas his father was loyal very much to people that he respected.
Yeah. So, with that being said, but again, I mean, this goes to show you though that, for Scopper though to really be able to, you know, attack Emu in the way that he did, kind of goes to show that, I think it's just that the Roger Pirates are just,
We're at a completely
be
different level.
beyond elite, you know, warrior status in this aspect. I mean, I'm kind of curious as to who's actually younger, if it was Scopper or Rayleigh, because Rayleigh, I think, is in his 80s in the storyline, or late
Well,
70s.
Scopper looks like he might be in his 70s.
Yeah.
At the I mean, that's still old,
Mm-hmm.
at least by our standards. I mean, their standards. You've got what's her name? You've got Dr. Kureha, who's like what, 120?
She's 141, I think. So, yeah. Depending on who you are, you can live to be a long time in the One Piece world, even if you're human. Because what is it? Giants live to be at least 200 or 300 years old. I think Yarl's like 300 something. And that's
Yeah,
old.
and he's actually become a big guy because he lived that long. Because he just kept growing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny how the Giants can keep growing.
Yeah, obviously not as big as
Loki.
Loki or Harold, but
Yeah.
still big.
Oh,
But yeah, so yeah, something I was thinking of is with Harjin and Loki talking, I wonder if Luffy might also be buying time for Loki to get back in the fight.
Yeah, because I'm kind of thinking that, Loki will have something to, some kind of role in all this, I think.
Because again, this is about running the clock, and
Yeah,
we can tell it's starting to run low for Emu. So
yeah,
it's possible that if Loki were to get back up, Emu can only keep going for so long at
right,
an elite level. If
right.
at some point there's got to be a point. He's not willing to die for this cause, at least not on
No, he's trying so hard to finish this, but the thing is that if he knows that if he can't, then he's gonna have to take this defeat, and I know that he's going to be very, very humiliated.
I mean, he did insinuate that he might be willing to die when he
Uh-huh.
was doing the transformation, and the Gorose were like, "No, great one," and
Yeah,
um, Garling was like, "If we need to, we have to." But I don't think he's. While he said that, I don't think he's willing. I don't. This is not the hill that he's willing to die on. 'Cause it's not his hill.
yeah, it's
Would he
not.
like to get victory? Yes, but it's not his hill to die on. So I mean, and again, we don't know what all's happening in Marijois. So this is a situation where,
Yeah, it's kind of interesting with that you would think that he would want to. Now, I think originally though, like kind of one of the reasons why he was trying to get Elbaf involved was to kind of quell the situation with Marijuana, right? I think that was one of the original reasons for doing that.
short term, long term was definitely to get the Giants on
Yeah,
the world government side, the Elbaf Giants, because the reality is, it's like they said, the side that controls the Giants is likely to win the war.
right.
Yeah, so this is one of those situations where I'm but again, we're just trying to run the clock. And yes, you are right. If he loses, he's going to be humiliated, and that's going to make him a dangerous, dangerous man when they have to do at the final battle on
Going
his home
forward.
turf.
Well, going forward, and it's like there's probably going to now, once this battle is over, because there's a couple things that are going to happen. Well, one, I can't imagine that then they'll try to go back to Elbaf because you'll have to at some point continue on to the next set of islands. So Elbaf will obviously still be in the story, but whether or not the God Knights and Emu will go back is probably it's like, well, how do you move the story forward if somehow they decide that they want to go back and attack it again?
Yeah, I actually heard that from I forget what the article was and whether it actually quoted Oda, but my understanding is there's basically uh there's two more island arcs in the saga. Um Lodestar Island and Laugh-Tale.
Well, and then yeah, like you said, it's two more island arcs in the saga, but
That doesn't
them
include
find right the
the
final war.
final
Right,
thing.
because we know that based on past interviews and stuff, once the One Piece is found, then that's going to trigger the final war because then probably all the Yonkos will come out, the world government will come out, probably all sorts of people will, and then we're still have to. It's like there's still the Revolutionary Army too. It's like all the people that they're rallying to their side. So this is going to be a really,
I
because I
think
think
I think the final war is gonna be like it's gonna be the
It's gonna probably
like I don't even think it's gonna be all the world government forces because like Liam's been saying, and I think several other One Piece uh in the people have been saying, I think there might be a split between the moral justice Marines and the
and the absolute justice.
yeah, the absolute justice Marine. Well, and then also you have to ask if um why am I drawing a blank on Akainu's actual name?
Oh, Sakazuki.
Yeah, if Sakazuki actually comes to the realization that like the truth of the
The world
world
government.
government, what's he going to do?
That'll be a good question. It'd be a very
So
good
yeah,
question.
I think there's going to be this coalition between the yeah, basically the pirate um it's basically going to be a Luffy coalition versus an Emu coalition, and the Luffy coalition is probably going to include several the forces of several nations that were formerly pledged to the world government, but are like they're not necessarily revolutionary aligned, but they're going to be like, well, we can't support this anymore.
Well, also, well, I think though it will still be more than two factions because I think Blackbeard will
So you think there'll be like a three-way free for all?
probably will be a free for all. I think
Well, and then yeah, of course we don't. If we want to throw that in there, we don't know
Shanks will do.
um what
We don't know what Shanks will do.
I was gonna say more about what's his name the Buggy Cross Guild faction.
Mm. Well, for all we know, hey, maybe they might team up with Shanks, given it's Buggy and Shanks.
I'm still willing. So here's something I think actually might happen. I might be wrong, but speaking of the Yonko, I think there might be. I don't know how it would work exactly, but I'm gonna make a prediction that there's probably going that when they get to it, coincidentally, I think the four Yonko forces are gonna get to Laugh Tale at the same time, and instead of fighting, Shanks is gonna propose a Davy back fight. Winner takes the One Piece.
Interesting.
And that's
That's an
where that's where Zoro is gonna go against Mihawk because one of the competitions is going to be probably a sword fight.
mm,
And so
that's right. We
the
still
two
have to.
yeah, the two strongest are gonna be Mihawk and Zoro.
Mm.
So that's that's my prediction. I don't know how exactly it would go. Maybe it would be the best however many out of maybe the best two out of three, or in the case of a a or it's been hinted that what we know as the Davy back fight, three fights might not be the only ones because in that montage of Rocks building his crew via the Davy back fight, he was shown to be doing other things than the three we saw.
Mm.
So it's possible that we might see more in a Davy back fight if my prediction is correct, other than a
Mm.
like we might see like a five, a 4 or 5, however many rounder. But I
Yeah.
think I see it going one of two ways. Either whoever wins the majority of fights, or whoever wins the what's it called? Or whoever, in the case of a tie leading into it, whoever wins the last fight. I think that would have to be. I think it would have to be the majority because, like I said, in order for Zoro to become the um, in order for Zoro to defeat Mihawk.
Oh yeah, to become the world best swordsman. Okay. Well, yeah, I think though probably I'm gonna say I think the
I
part
do
of
think that they're like I do feel like talking about the Davy back fight. What I think that things are gonna definitely factor in that way. Also my prediction is the normal rules would come into play other than the ultimate prize being the Pirate King, where it's like you can take
other
members of the
crew.
crew
Yeah,
as a handicap.
that's true. Okay. Well, I think, but obviously the big giveaway here is that I think probably within my guess would be probably within the next 3 to 4 chapters, Emu's probably going to be done for as far as being able to maintain his current form within the lower world, as they call it amongst
The world
the uh
nobles.
the world nobles. Yeah. So I'm guessing now we're not gonna have a chapter for another 2 weeks. Obviously Oda's taking another break. But yeah, I think this is gonna be kind of big. So we'll have to see how it goes. Yeah, so big stuff happening. Okay, well, one last thing I'd like to do before we go, I want to give a shout out to one of Santa Ana College's own alumni, Richie Miranda, um, who made his UFC debut yesterday at the UFC Vegas 120 event, and he went against a tough opponent. I know. Um, I think it was what was his name? Um, Manuel Souza from Brazil, and the guy's pretty tough. He'd been on a I think on a 4 or 5 match win streak, and he has like 5 first round finishes and a performance of the night. So that was he this was his second UFC fight, but and he got performance of the night in that UFC debut. So Richie started strong. He was able to get a takedown and you know uh, control the first round. So obviously, he had won that, but he took some nasty leg kicks in the second round, and that kind of limited what he was able to do. So can't really do much if you're
You
kind of
can
limited
barely
with your
stand. You
leg work.
can't really do much.
Yeah, yeah. So that was kind of tough for him, and he started taking some punches. But um, anyway, so yeah, he ended up losing the fight, unanimous decision, 29-28, and it was kind of obvious. So was hoping he would win in his debut, but he got called up on a 10-day notice, which is pretty significant.
Okay,
So
so he was a last minute replacement then.
that would be my guess, but
10
to be
days,
called
no,
up,
that's a last minute replacement. So something happened with the original fighter. They pulled him from because I was because the thing is he just came from the from Legacy
LFA.
Fighting Alliance, right?
Yeah,
That's the official feeder league. So and he was the lightweight champion. So um that's a lot of times if they need a last minute call up, that's who they'll pick from. So
Yeah. But anyway,
which means
so
he'll be getting a little bit more leeway than a normal fighter would. Typically they don't let fighters go if they lose their first fight. They typically give them 2 to 3 fights anyways to try to, prove that they can actually hang. Um, but he might be given a little bit more leeway than that.
yeah.
Well, in the
Anyway,
end, the saying goes, "Don't leave it in the hands of the judges."
oh well, no. I mean, the way the match went, it was pretty obvious. It wasn't the second and third rounds were not close. That was the thing. He got hurt and he's just gonna have to rebuild on. Although this Souza guy, he had some pretty good cardio. Definitely. He was like moving around. But anyway, so my
Well,
message to
Richie wasn't just coming off the couch, right? I mean, he
oh,
was typical. He was. Is he one of those guys who typically tries to stay in shape in the gym?
Matthew, so just to kind of
Exactly.
give it here because this is my message to Richie, but Richie Miranda, Silva trained, Santa Ana College Wrestling. So this guy knows his stuff. He had great wrestling last night. And Richie, I hope you're watching this, man. Proud of you for what you did. You finally made it to the UFC, JUCO All-American and all that. So, you're gonna be big. You're gonna be big. You're gonna make it out there. So really proud of you, El Machete, because looking forward to seeing your next fight and how you're doing. That's all I have to say on Richie Miranda in his UFC debut. All right. Well, with that being said, we're gonna wrap it up. And next week, I think we're probably gonna get into our Bonzuke predictions for September.
Yes.
So we'll get into that break from One Piece. But yeah, so until then, everyone, want to thank you for tuning in to episode 90 of the Samurai Brothers, and we will catch you next time.